Welcome everyone to the Solar at Habitat for Humanity webinar. My name is Abigail Jager. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a program manager with Solar Oregon, and I'm really excited for our special topic webinar this afternoon. First off, as I said, I'm a program manager with Solar Oregon, and they are who's hosting this webinar today. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 nonprofit that provides solar and storage education throughout Oregon. We've been doing this for over 40 years now. We do this through a variety of events such as this one, highlighting solar projects throughout the state through how to go solar and storage webinars that we host monthly, as well as comparing solar quotes webinars that we host monthly, and through community events such as Solar Socials, the Go Zero Tour, and other events that we host throughout the year. Thank you so much for being here today. This event is also made possible through support by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust of Oregon provides education and resources for consumers of the investor-owned utilities in order to help people engage with energy efficiency and renewable energy. Energy Trust is a great supporter of Solar Oregon and many other organizations across the state, and we thank them for their continued support in helping make events like this one happen. Apologies. Here today to be our speakers and from Bend-Redmond Habitat for Humanity, we have Grace Weger and Scott Nordquist. Grace Weger is the Vice President of Construction at Bend-Redmond Habitat for Humanity and someone that I've worked with for all 3 years. I've been at Solar Oregon through our Go Zero tour. She's been a great help in getting house sites from Bend-Redmond Habitat onto the Go Zero tour so that we can discuss the ways that solar can be made accessible at all income levels, and is a great option. And she's just been a great help. Scott, I got to meet through the planning of this webinar. He's worn many hats at Bend-Redmond Habitat for Humanity, starting in the homeowner services department and is now serving as VP of Resource Development. He's been really awesome in getting this webinar planned and off the ground, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say today. They're going to be talking about the different ways Bend-Redmond is engaging with solar and adding solar to many of their projects. And if you are interested in apologies, forgot I had another slide before the one I was already transitioning to. If throughout the presentation you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. You can see it highlighted in orange, I believe, right above my head. We'll be going through all the questions at the end of the presentation. I'll be helping moderate that Q&A. So please don't feel like you need to wait until then to put your questions in. You can put them in at any time. And if this presentation inspires you to want to go solar, I would recommend you check out the Energy Trust of Oregon Standard Solar Incentives. These are incentives that Energy Trust offers to help customers of both Portland General Electric and Pacific Power go solar. They are a flat amount incentives for solar. So for installed solar, you get $2,500 for both PGE and PAC Power customers. And then for installed storage, you can get $400 per kilowatt hour up to $5,000. And if your utility is PGE, and $320 per kilowatt hour up to $4,000 for storage if your utility is Pacific Power. In order to get these incentives, the only thing you, a customer, has to do is work with an Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor, which are just contractors that have already been vetted and certified through Energy Trust of Oregon with their design and installation requirements, and therefore are approved to offer you these incentives. You can find more out about these at energytrustoforegon.org or by attending one of our How to Go Solar and Storage webinar, where we talk about this and some other incentives in more depth. And so now, without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it over to Grace and Scott. Thank you so much for being here today.
For having us, Abby.
Perfect. Thanks, Abby.
You want to kick it off, Scott?
I will. As Abby said, I am Scott Nordquist, VP of Resource Development with Bend-Redmond Habitat. I'm going to go over just some basics and overview of Habitat and what we do, and then Grace will dive into a little more specifics on our construction and solar and how we make it work. Grace, will you just confirm for me that our screen is up?
I see it.
Cool. Um, so what do we do at Habitat? Our mission is bringing people together to build homes, communities, and hope. So Bend-Redmond Habitat, we have been around since 1989. A lot of folks are familiar with the Habitat for Humanity brand. So there is a larger Habitat for Humanity International that is turning 50 this year. And then we operate as what we call affiliates. We're kind of like little franchises. So there are over 1,100 of us in the US and over 20 affiliates just in Oregon. And our Bend-Redmond habitat in our history has now supported well over 250 homeowners here in Central Oregon achieving homeownership. A little on how we operate. A lot of folks are probably familiar with our restores. Great places for upcycling, DIY projects, home renovations. So the sales proceeds from the restore help support our operational costs. And then we are very much a volunteer-driven organization. So we rely on a lot of community support to make our mission happen. And that happens both in terms of admin volunteers, volunteers in the restores, and out on the construction sites. We have grown quite a bit in the last few years, going from building 5 or 6 homes per year to averaging closer to 20 homes per year. Along with that, in Central Oregon, land is one of our biggest barriers to building. So we went from building on single build-ready lots to being a developer and getting raw land and putting in the utilities. So you'll see a little more of what that looks like. And the core of what we do is making homeownership possible for people who are priced out of the market. Um, so if people feel like they're stuck renting, and can't afford homeownership, we provide pathways for normal working class folks to be able to buy a home. And the way we do it is that we again rely on broad community support so that we can cover the gap, whereas a home might cost us 450 500,000 to build, and we sell it to someone based on what they can afford, and then our fundraising or grants cover that gap. So our buyers get an affordable mortgage that is tailored to their budget. So a common price for a home might be around $200,000 for us. And that's without any kind of down payment. And then what we'll talk about today is in addition to an affordable mortgage, they also get low cost utilities, which is a huge benefit for long-term home ownership. Most of our homes these days are under a permanent affordability model or a land lease model. So the homeowner owns the home, Habitat owns the land, and it is permanently affordable for future buyers. So when that homeowner wants to sell, it'll go back to another buyer for affordable home ownership. And that really ensures that there's a community benefit and that home doesn't just benefit one household, but for generations. And Habitat is pretty famous for the concept of sweat equity. It's evolved over time and over the years, but our program is still based on a partnership where families come and work alongside Habitat for about a year, doing education, working on budgeting. We have financial mentors, and then just engaging and being ambassadors for what we do. A little bit on our homeowners. So again, it's really the workforce that makes Central Oregon go. So we're talking medical support staff, educators, restaurant staff. This lovely woman is a janitor at a local business. Our buyers are anyone from we had age 21 to 82 in the last couple of years. and really diverse. It's not just families. We have single folks, we have couples. If I had to describe a typical homeowner, it's often a single mom who maybe earns 25, $30 an hour, and feels like they're going to be stuck renting forever. Grace will go in more in depth on this, but here is a picture of one of our developments. So you can see we have these are townhomes. It's what I call a duplex style townhomes. So there's 6 buildings, 12 homes, what we would call middle housing, this kind of gentle density of townhomes or cottage communities. And Grace will go into a little more depth on the sustainability. But we have our own construction team. We use volunteers and we also use subcontractors. So a development like this is pretty common where we take a 1 to 2 acre infill lot and put 10 to 20 homes on the site. This is just a photo of the lovely interior of our homes, and I put this here so folks understand affordable does not equal low quality. We have some beautiful homes, and Grace and team get a lot of credit for building these beautiful homes. Here's an exterior of homes we completed this past year. You can see this is like a triplex and a duplex. And then a pretty overhead shot with the fall colors. Our development's down in the foreground here. And I think with that, I'll pass it over to Grace.
Thanks. So over the past 6 years, we have installed solar on nearly 70 Habitat homes here in Central Oregon, hundreds of panels generating over 460,000 kilowatt hours. And I have some fun equivalents to share for that. So that would be charging 46 million phones, brewing 38 million cups of coffee, driving an electric car 1.5 million miles, and the value of around $70,000 of electricity saved annually from the solar that we have installed on these homes. The solar that we install covers most or all of the household electricity use. We'll get into more about how we determine the size of our solar systems later. A lot of that obviously has to do with cost. But the impact to our homeowners is that their energy bills are often reduced to $18 to $40 a month, which, as Scott mentioned earlier, is really huge for lower income households. Next slide, Scott. Not seeing it change, or there we go. Thanks. So the lower utility bills, again, are funneling savings into things that really matter for our homeowners: education, extracurriculars for their kids, just having a safety net, really. Most low-income households are faced with high energy burdens. A lot of lower-income households, especially when they're renting, are living in older, energy-inefficient homes and disproportionately spend more on their energy costs than the standard home in Oregon does. So the savings of up to anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 a year for many of our homeowners, depending on what their situation looked like prior to buying one of our homes. And we're really dedicated to this, not only for the lower utility cost and cost of living, but also because our homes are healthier, they're durable, and they're resilient. And so again, these homes are going to continue providing affordable housing to families in need in our community for hopefully at least 100 years. So we build them right and so that they can last a long time. Next slide, Scott. Thank you. So our strategy here really begins at building an excellent envelope. So the envelope meaning the outside structure of the home. So everything, including the insulation, sheathing, siding. We use all above code insulation. We advance air seal all of our homes. Air leakage is really critical for not only energy leakage, but also moisture mitigation as well. So we really focus on building that envelope, and that reduces the utility bills to begin with. And then we install efficient systems. Our homes use mostly ductless mini splits, heat pump technology for our heat pump water heaters as well. all of Energy Star rated appliances, which nowadays, that's most of what you're going to find on the market anyways, and LED lighting, of course. And then the cherry on top of all of that is the solar. So our focus really is reducing the overall consumption, and then we can install a properly sized solar system to offset the remaining, or at least a proportion of the remaining energy consumption of the home. So again, we do advanced installation. We are using triple pane windows as well for a lower U value, and advanced air sealing. You can see in this picture here, this one has continuous exterior insulation. Again, that's really helping with keeping that energy inside the home. Mentioned that we use all these heat pump technologies. Those are becoming more readily available on the market, and we have found that they are fairly comparable in price to traditional systems. We really love the ductless mini splits in particular because ducting can carry pollens and dusts and dander and all sorts of unhealthy things for the air quality. So doing that ductless system really promotes healthy indoor air quality as well. And then we will use an energy model so that we're really ensuring that we're value engineering our homes. So we work with Energy Trust of Oregon, Earth Advantage to do energy modeling for us. And what that looks like is we'll give them the specs of the home. We'll tell them all the R values of all the wall assemblies, all of the systems we're using, all of those details. And they'll tell us an estimate of how much energy that home is using every year. And then if it's higher than what we would like, we say, okay, well, what it look like if we added more insulation, if we did this exterior insulation, if we tried to air seal it better. And then my job is to really look at the cost of that versus the energy savings. And that's important because maybe it would cost, these numbers probably aren't super accurate, but maybe it would cost, let's say $5,000 more to install exterior insulation on one of our homes, but it only saves 100 kilowatt hours a year. It'd probably be a lot more cost effective to spend that $5,000 on solar and generate more energy that year, right? So that's kind of how we're starting in the design phase to determine we know the outcome that we want, and then how we get there is determined through that energy modeling and value engineering. So construction coordination is very critical in this process. Do not skip your pre-cons, your pre-construction meetings, especially with solar installers and electricians. That's something that we learned early on. Sometimes the installers prefer to do their own wiring. Sometimes the electricians prefer to do all the wiring. They need to coordinate on where that combiner box is going to be located on the home. So it's much easier to have them get together early or review the plans, walk the site together, get together during framing, and make sure that everything is getting stubbed in the proper locations as well. And then this is kind of getting into lessons learned, but it's also in terms of sequencing with that construction coordination. Oftentimes, most of the time, the solar installer will need to access the attic to poke a wire through to the roof, right? And so we in the past have accidentally done that after we've already blown in the attic installation, and then it gets compressed by them walking up there and we have to blow in more. So again, just paying attention to those sequencing things, which is part of any construction process, just adding the solar installer in there. I think the biggest question when it comes to solar and high performance building is always cost. This is a real screen grab from one of our quotes from our solar installer. And I share this because I really want to emphasize how important that Energy Trust Solar Within Reach funding is for us. You can see this was a 13 cottage project here. So there's 13 systems reflected in this contract price. And it brought it from almost $170,000 down to just around $100,000. So this is really the main things that allows Habitat for Humanity to install solar on our homes. And as I mentioned earlier, we aren't experiencing the savings of having the solar, but our homeowners are, right? And so if you look at it from an ROI perspective, the ROI is really 5 to 10 years, again, depending on how much energy that particular household uses. That's another caveat I will add to that is the energy modeling we do is based off of assumptions, right? Usually they'll add 1 to the number of bedrooms. So if it's a 3-bedroom home, they'll assume 4-person family, and they'll assume some typical patterns of energy use for that family, we all know that we all live differently, right? And some of us use less energy than others. Some of us need to do 10 loads of laundry a day, right? So it's not always super accurate as to how their energy prediction in that energy modeling. We have a lot of community support because of the way that we build and to install solar. And Scott, when was the Denny Sullivan Fund launched? You'll have to remind me.
Ooh, let's say 2023.
2023. And that was a very generous donation that was specifically for us to use on our high performance building and solar installation. So that allowed us to promise that we will install solar on all of our homes, our new construction homes moving forward. So that's really what has allowed us to do so. And this lovely picture looks really great from here, right? It's a beautiful photo of solar panels. But if you know anything about solar, you'll see a couple of issues with the arrays here. So this is our lessons learned slide. This was our first project that we installed solar at mass. So this was 11 homes. We did net zero. All of these homes are net zero. So their solar offsets 100% of their energy consumption every year. They're all electric. All of our homes now are all electric. But you'll see here that some of the arrays are disrupted. We have, multiple roof lines with arrays on them to achieve the net zero production values for those. And so the reason that you'll see interrupted arrays are because we had plumbing stacks in the wrong locations that the plumbers just installed them where they typically would. We didn't coordinate it ahead of time, and so we had to work the solar around those. We had a couple of roof vents in the way as well that we should have anticipated earlier in the project, but we didn't know what we didn't know at the time. So the biggest lesson really is planning. Again, planning for solar in your design. We always try to optimize our solar exposure as much as we possibly can. So really aiming for those south-facing roofs, making sure that we have adequate roof space, making sure that we are designing the attic insulation and plumbing stacks and any penetrations in the roof to avoid any array, and really not ever doing that on the southern side whenever possible. We have building standards that we give to our architects, and we've just worked our solar standards into that. Makes it pretty simple to be on the same page. It's part of our QA/QC now. So really, once you learn that first lesson, ever since this project, we've really improved. We learned that we have to plan ahead, and we started doing so, and it's been really quite seamless since then. So it's really not that intimidating. Our subs are all familiar with it. Our homeowners are all now very familiar with it. We do a lot of education in the program to educate them about solar and about the benefits of it and things to look out for, how to look at their, we use Enphase usually, but their production and inverter production there, and how to read their utility bill and things like that. So, pretty low bar to entry, I would say, besides the cost, but the ROI on it in our experience has been well worth it. These are some of our
Cool.
upcoming projects. Yeah, Scott, do you want to talk about them?
Why don't you talk about Bear Creek and passive homes?
I would love to. That's the one I'm most excited about. So we are starting a very exciting project. There's 8 homes there. They're technically 2 quadplexes. Again, that type of middle housing development type. And these homes are all going to be FIAS certified, Passive House of the Institute of the United States, which is a very rigorous standard for not only energy efficiency, but also durability and resiliency. So it measures moisture mitigation, condensation risk, as well as having an extremely low energy consumption of these homes. The goal is to build, again, that excellent envelope so that the energy use is just super low, and we can install actually pretty small HVAC systems in the homes as well because they are super insulated. We're using SIPs for the first time on this project as well, structural insulated panels, which are factory produced panels. They're very, very airtight, very well insulated. They'll be transported here and flown in and stood with a crane. So that's a really exciting project for us.
Yeah, and that one I'll note too. We got that land as surplus land from the city of Bend. We were awarded through a competitive RFP, and the land is almost free. So that enabled us to kind of take on this extra cool project to be able to build passive homes. And then we have a couple other projects. We also were awarded surplus land from Bend-Lapine Schools. This is just a really groundbreaking, exciting partnership, kind of first of its kind of a school district recognizing the need for a stable workforce. And so they surplused land that they weren't going to use for expanding their schools or ball fields or anything for housing. And so we're gonna provide home ownership right next to our local elementary and a high school over on the west side Bend. And then a little farther out, we have a larger 60 home project coming up in Redmond. So I won't go into too much detail, but just to share with folks, we got some exciting things coming up. And let me see if I can pause, and I'm going to show a quick video here, and then I think we should have some time for Q&A if folks want to dig into more about financials, how we make it work, details on the systems.
My name is Grace Wager. I'm the Director of Land Development and Sustainable Building for Bend-Redmond Habitat for Humanity. For years, our organization has been at the forefront of sustainable building practices. In 2020, we proudly unveiled our first net zero community, setting a precedent for energy efficient building that we continue to uphold today. At the heart of our approach lies value engineering, a practice that allows us to optimize energy efficiency without compromising on quality or affordability. It is through this conscientious strategy that we are able to promise every home be built to a high standard. We do this because we understand the profound impact that high-performance homes can have on lower-income households, providing stability and financial relief while also mitigating the harmful effects of energy insecurity and unhealthy living conditions.
Energy Trust of Oregon is an independent nonprofit. We help businesses, people, and organizations in Oregon and Southwest Washington by providing energy efficiency and renewable energy solutions. Energy Trust has been partnered with Bend-Redmond Habitat for Humanity for many years. It's been a great partnership. Our funding and incentives really helps to bring down the cost of the different pieces of equipment that are going into these projects, and helps bring Habitat's funding a little bit further. It's really beneficial to those living in the homes. Habitat for Humanity is proof that new innovation and new technologies can be done in projects right now. They've been great at adopting new technologies, such as advanced heat pumps and solar panels that are really going to be effective and really beneficial for the people living in the homes. I think we all know that we're living in extreme weather events, things like wildfires and heat waves. These homes are just a lot more comfortable and safer to live in. In the future, we hope to see that Habitat for Humanity is a model for both sustainable, affordable, and efficient construction.
So I pay approximately $12 per month for my electric bill.
Oregon's mission is to work to increase education and access to solar energy and home battery storage. We do this by hosting tours, educational workshops, and panel discussions. This mission really focuses on leading the way to a clean energy future where human prosperity is achieved through efficient technology and renewable energy. We were able to feature a Habitat for Humanity Bend community. It was exciting for Oregonians to see solar energy utilized and see it impact multiple families.
I think the impact that Earth Advantage and Bend-Redmond and Habitat for Humanity have made is providing affordable homes with energy efficiency, building durability, indoor air quality, and really homeowner comfort, all at an affordable level, an entry-level home. And one thing with an energy efficient home is that it helps create some financial security in the home. So now these homeowners don't have to spend all their money on their utility bills. They may go into the community and be a part of it. Long range plans is to see homes take that next step towards sustainable and efficient building.
I'm I'm so excited to celebrate the launch of the Denny Sullivan Sustainable Building Fund. This fund will allow us to remain steadfast in our commitment to building socially equitable and environmentally responsible homes. One of our key initiatives moving forward is the installation of solar panels on all of our future homes. This commitment not only reduces our carbon footprint, but also empowers homeowners to harness clean, renewable energy, providing stability against rising energy costs and paving the way for a brighter, more sustainable future.
It's not just getting people into homes that they are building, it's bettering everybody's future.
Well, thanks for bearing with me. My internet was struggling a little there. All right, Abby, is there any questions or anything?
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of questions. Thank you so much, both Scott and Grace, for that presentation. That was really great. I know I enjoyed learning more about why you guys find putting solar on homes to be so important and how you make it happen. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, if you have any questions, please put them into that Q&A box. That should be at the bottom of your screen. It just says Q&A, and we'll be going through the questions there. So one of the first questions we got was someone wondering if Habitat pays taxes on the land portion of the homes, as you said it was a land lease model, if I got that phrasing correct.
Yeah, that is correct. So we, as a nonprofit, as a 501c3, we can hold the land exempt from property taxes, which is another kind of benefit of the land lease model. The homeowners do pay taxes, do pay property taxes, but they're essentially paying for just the improvements, so not the land itself. And so their property taxes are just a bit lower than what you might find on a similar market rate home.
That makes sense. So one of the other questions related to that we got was, how do the homeowners participate in home appreciation with this model and with it staying a affordable housing unit, as that is one of the major reasons people want to own homes?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is it's an interesting balance of the land lease model is less of a financial windfall for that individual homeowner, right? There are income restrictions on resale, so they're not going to see the same gains that one would see on the open market. But the trade-off is, again, that long-term community investment. So we have done a lot of research and looked at different models, and we have a quite generous shared equity model, I think, within the land lease world. So our homeowners essentially get a 2% accrual rate year over year, which will be independent of the market fluctuations. All that said, it depends a little bit on where their original purchase price was, but after 10 or 12 years, they're likely to have about $100,000 in equity. So if they were to sell on the open market or sell back to Habitat, they'll hit 100,000 at about 10 or 12 years. And we tell folks throughout the process that essentially this can be a forever home, or it can be a stepping stone of going out of rental, having that stable mortgage payment where your mortgage is set for 10 years. You start to save up money, cash out that equity, use it for a down payment on an open market home. So it can be the stepping stone towards an open market purchase.
That makes sense. And I know as a renter, to me, that sounds like a great model. So I'm sure your homeowners feel similarly. As you've worked to incorporate solar into your multifamily homes, what has the residents' response been?
Overwhelmingly very positive. Sometimes a little bit of worry just because they're not familiar maybe with solar. There's a little bit to learn, but all of our homeowners go through our program. And so we have time with them, an opportunity with them to educate and to kind of walk them through the systems. And we make sure that we do that as well. We have pre-drywall walkthroughs where we will show all the wiring for all of the systems, not only solar, but everything. And then during our final walkthrough, we show them how to look at their combiner box and make sure all the lights, like what do those all mean? And is everything working? So I think they feel a lot more confident once they understand the systems and understand the impact that it's going to have on them. And really, solar doesn't require much maintenance at all. That's the number one question we get from our homeowners is, oh my gosh, is this going to cost me an arm and a leg to maintain this? And the answer is no, it's not. And so I think once people understand that, the response is very positive because they get to save thousands of dollars a year.
I know I've talked to you before, Grace, about that pre-ownership program they go through. It's about a year and a half long, if I remember correctly.
It varies a little bit, but yeah, typically around a year.
That's really cool. I know that I feel like I could use that sometimes, not knowing how all the systems work within my rental. Someone else asked, what is the typical size of the solar systems you're installing? Is that offsetting the entire power usage of the home, or is it only offsetting a portion of that?
Yeah, great question. So we have our homes, we really now we've done our energy modeling and value engineering, and we have sort of a package now that we know is kind of our sweet spot for having that really low energy consumption without spending a ton of money. So our homes, which are range, we build typically 2 and 3 bedroom homes. We do have a couple of 1 and 4 bedrooms, which would have different energy consumption. But our 2 and 3 bedroom homes are usually around 7,000 to 8,000 kilowatt hour predicted use a year. And so our systems that we install, we've been calling it half net when we install a 3.2 kilowatt system on the home. That usually offsets around 50% of the energy consumption, and then 5.6-ish kilowatt system would be fully net zero for that size.
That's really cool. Have you ever included any battery storage or done off-grid homes?
We haven't. I'm very interested in this, and I know Scott is as well. It's been a barrier to install battery storage because of the size of our homes. Our homes are around 1,000 square feet, I guess, average, and we struggle with storage space in the homes to begin with. You know, families need things, especially here in Central Oregon. We all have a lot of toys and equipment and snow clothes and all that stuff. So we haven't been able to find the physical space for it. We've looked a little bit into what does communal storage look like, and also the cost of it and the education of it would just be another level. So something I'm interested in doing in the future, but we haven't done yet.
Something that maybe hopefully is coming down the pipeline and can be done one day. I'm sure energy resilience is important to these folks, and especially coming from low income households. Those are the people who are most impacted by extreme weather events, where having energy storage and backup power can be the most important.
Absolutely.
You talked a lot about the home envelope and how that's really the first step in insulating it. Do you ever use foundation insulation? And if so, if not, why not? If so, when do you use it?
Absolutely. Yeah. All of our homes up to, well, not 100% of them. I would say 90% of our homes are slab on grade foundation. So we use XPS insulation underneath the slab and on the stem wall. We have a couple of homes that have a crawl space, and we do above code insulation in the crawl space as well.
And do you ever take EVs into account when looking at loads or look future planning for that?
That's a great question. So we have up to this point just had dedicated circuits in our electrical panel for future EV charger. I would like to start taking that to the next level and just run a 220 right next to the panel for future EV. We don't take it into the calculation. We have found that most of our homeowners at this point don't have EVs. Hopefully that changes in the future as they become more readily available.
Fingers crossed. I know more and more EVs are being produced, and as they become more normalized, there's more coming into the secondhand car market as well, which allows them to be more accessible to everyone. What have been some of the biggest challenges to incorporating solar in your homes?
I think really, it doesn't seem very significant, but it's really just the things that we didn't plan for properly. And so then and that's the case with anything in construction. If you don't plan for it up front, the impact of it becomes worse down the line, right? Maybe you're just about to get certificate of occupancy and you're like, oh, shoot, we didn't think about that. And now we have to go redo something or whatever it might be. So really what I was saying in the slides with just not properly planning where the venting is, that was really the biggest barrier. And it's a really easy one to resolve once you figure it out.
It absolutely is. And construction's always coming with issues. I know we hear that from the smallest construction projects to the biggest ones, whether that's interconnection or I can't imagine the number of permits you have to go through building an entire house, much less 12 of them. Someone else asked the typical maintenance and cost for homeowners for a solar system. I'm happy to take this one, Scott and Grace, if you'd
Do it,
like,
yeah.
and you can add in. So the typical cost we say for homeowners for a solar system is around 35. I'm getting that wrong. Apologies. My brain just was not there. I believe it's around $35,000, but that's also seeming way too low for what I think it is. So give me 1 second to just confirm my math so that I know I'm providing correct information. And my computer's getting mad at me, checking my notes. But I will answer the maintenance question. So what we like to say is that solar is low maintenance, but not no maintenance. So sometimes that means you need to replace wiring if you don't have a proper critter guard or you end up with more critters than you were anticipating. Interested in investigating your solar system and accidentally causing issues. And sometimes that is just taking your hose and spraying the top of your roof to get rid of some dust and debris. But you should not expect it to be a no maintenance system. Like I said, we say solar is low maintenance, not no maintenance. And I was right. Cost for a basic solar system is right around $32,000 to $35,000. And what I was thinking of and why it seemed low is a cost for a solar plus paired storage system in Oregon is about $52,000. That is before any incentives are applied to it. And if you want to find out more about that, I'd recommend attending one of Solar Oregon's How to Go Solar and Storage workshops. The next one is going to be later this month. So definitely take a look out for that.
And Abby, I just reshared again. So Grace, if you want to hit on what we see, because in the capital A subsidized
we can't
affordable
see your
realm-
screen, Scott, if you were trying to share your screen.
Oh. Let me try again.
There it goes.
Just as an example of cost. So this is solar for 13 cottages. And Grace, these are fully net zero, is that correct?
They are, yeah.
Okay. So
There's
comes out
another example
to
of cost.
8,000 per home-ish. Not even.
That's a really great price for solar. You guys are doing great work. And I know one of the other questions we got was how many homes are getting solar in this example. So thank you for answering that question as well with the 13 units. One of the questions we got is if you guys have a singular solar installer you consistently work with, or if you work with multiple solar installers.
Yeah, so we have a procurement process that we follow for all of our subcontractors for any trade, and we get 3 bids or more for every trade. That being said, we really have established relationships with a couple of installers in the region, and we like working with them. One of them is Sunlight Solar. We've worked with them since our first solar development, and they've been really great. They apply for the ETO incentives for us, and they make that process really easy for us. We've also worked with E2 Solar. They were previously a women-owned business, which we try to prioritize, but recently were sold and no longer are. We get bids all the time. There's actually quite a few solar providers in the region, so we're always making sure that we are being financially responsible and choosing ones that work within our budget.
That is what we suggest doing as well. If you're a homeowner looking at solar, get at least 3 bids that you can compare prices across them and see differences in the systems they are recommending, as there can be differences in not only price, but also in the technology they think would work best for your situation.
That's a great point, Abby. I want to expand on that a little bit, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
So some of the systems, as Abby mentioned, some of them may be the same number of panels, but one system actually can produce more than the others. And so there's often times where if we're trying to get that net zero number and we're like a panel short for some reason, we may go with a different system where the panels are higher production than the other panels that were available. So it is important to make sure that the equipment that is being bid works for your project.
Yes, and it's one of the reasons that when we discuss the price of solar, we say you shouldn't just look at the price per watt, as that if you go for the cheapest price per watt, you can actually end up paying more, as that leads to you needing more panels or having to replace panels later as they die out faster. So, um, and for one of our last questions is if folks are interested in supporting your mission, how they get in touch or donate.
I'll let Scott take that one.
Yeah, of course. You can find out more information by following us on social. We're on Facebook and Instagram. You can go to our website, bend-redmondhabitat.org. And we have all kinds of different ways to get involved, whether you want to be a financial donor, you want to volunteer, learn more about our projects. And then we also have, for folks in Central Oregon, we do events. We have a happy hour coming up at the end of March. We'll have a home dedication event for those 13 homes coming up this summer. So yeah, reach out to us if you want to get involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I spoke too soon. We got another question in the chat, if you wouldn't mind. Someone asked if you are in touch with other habitats talking about the work you're doing, including solar.
Yes, we are. All of the habitats in Oregon are, I guess, under the umbrella of Habitat Oregon, which is they don't build homes, they just kind of manage the other affiliates. Scott, I may not be saying that correctly, so interrupt me if I'm not. And we are actually sharing this webinar with them to spread to other affiliates. And we often get emails, and the affiliates they operate at many different levels, right? So the Portland affiliate is much, much larger than the Newburgh affiliate, for example, who I think Newburgh is building a handful of homes a year. And I think Portland is upwards of 50 now. So operating at different levels, often with very different budgets, but we often are in communication with them.
That's awesome. And do you ever communicate with habitats from other states, or do you guys stay pretty local?
Yeah, we do. We attend a couple of really great habitat conferences. One of them just last year was the Western Regional Conference, where I was able to give a presentation on exactly what we do, the high performance homes, the solar, all of it. And that was really great to be able to spread some information and learn from other affiliates in the West Coast as well. And then this upcoming year will be the Habitat International Conference in Georgia. That is all of the habitats, however many hundreds, thousands of affiliates in the United States attend that one, and we are having a couple of sessions there, I think, as well. So
that sounds really cool. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time. I know I feel like I learned a lot and feel more knowledgeable about what you guys do and how you do it. And I'm really glad to have that information. So thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
thanks, Abby.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.